What's going on, everyone? I'm Paul LaMonica from the Low to High podcast, and in this week's episode, I sit down with Yale University attackman Matt Brandau. Matt's from Timonium, Maryland, where he played his high school ball at the Boys Latin School, where he was an Under Armour All-American his senior year. At Yale, Matt has been a starting attackman since his freshman year and even tallied 74 points in his freshman campaign. Matt and I spoke about how his twin brother Chris, who currently plays at Maryland, made such an impact on who he is as a player today, what he looks forward to in 2021, and much more. Be sure to go follow Matt on Instagram at mbrandau36. I hope you guys enjoy the show, and let's get right into it. The bull behind the cage, Yale University attackman Matt Brandau. Matt, what's going on, man?
How's it going? Good to be here.
I appreciate you coming on. How are you? You home?
Yeah, I'm home right now. I'm doing real well. My brother went back to the University of Maryland this morning, so it's an empty house now, just me.
When do you head back?
I'm not sure yet. We're still trying to figure all that stuff out, hoping that I can head back late January, maybe early February, but everything's still kind of up in the air right now.
When was the last time you were back on campus?
I visited a couple of my buddies who were there in the fall for like an afternoon, just got to see them and spend the day with them, but I haven't really been on campus since, probably March last year.
Jeez, wow. So is like everyone else just in like a private house, not like actually fully on campus?
Right. So the house that some of the seniors and guys, a couple guys in my class as well, are living in is just off campus.
And you said your brother was at Maryland. I'm assuming he starts practice in a couple days or today.
Yeah, I think they're starting it up this week. I'm not sure exactly which day, maybe Tuesday, but I'm not exactly sure.
I know I think everyone besides the Ivy is starting up this week. So I'm assuming that must be pretty tough for you and your teammates as well. Just trying to, get some training by yourself, but like just seeing these other teams play, is probably pretty tough on you guys.
Yeah, I think at this point as a junior, we're pretty used to it, based on just our Feb 1st start date on a normal year. But I think the most frustrating part right now is seeing everybody start to play and not even knowing if we're going to be allowed to or allowed to go back. I think everyone wants to just have some sort of definite answer at this point, but it's all we can do is wait and hope that the Ivy makes a decision that benefits us. But obviously, the safety comes first. So we're just waiting for now.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think not being able to like play or like see your teammates as often has been a little bit more like of a mental strain on like maybe not just you but also your other teammates as well?
Yeah, I think it's definitely difficult. I think that, our team prides itself on being really close together. And, it's takes a lot to build chemistry and a good culture of a team. So not being in the same room with those guys or around those guys on the field, off the field, definitely adds a little bit of a challenge. And it'll be interesting to see like the freshmen in the first years that we haven't really interacted with at all, or we might be thrown right into a spring with them. So it's going to be interesting. And I think it's been tough on some guys, including myself, but really it's a whole lot of build up and excitement to see those guys again and to be able to like hang out with those guys again.
You think like the first day you guys are able to like play together is going to be a very fun practice?
Oh, it's going to be so fun. It's going to be a lot of like trash talking, smack talking, guys yelling at each other about who worked out the most and who got the biggest and strongest. But it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait for that first practice.
So who do you think is going to fill the void of the chirp monster of Matt Gaudette on the Yale University team?
I don't know if that void's fillable. I mean, as a your first year, coming in, and I've never been a big trash talker. I haven't known a whole lot of trash talkers in my time at Boys Latin. So I was kind of like taken aback by it, but it was awesome. And it's so effective. Like the things that you don't see, like everyone that sees now he's in the PLL, they're like, oh, he might be doing it just for show. Like he said it a billion times. It's part of his game and it works. It's so effective. Like I remember my defenseman when we played, I forget who, another Ivy team, like was more focused on talking to Matt, and I like had a couple goals and he didn't even realize what had happened. So Matt does such a great job, and I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be possible to find someone that can talk like him.
When I had TD on and we were talking about the exact same thing, he said, you guys would be in like film rooms and, the mic of the video would catch some of the stuff he would say in the middle of games or like during the PLL series that like there would be a hot mic on and it would be like someone talking. He's like, we got to play better defense. And you hear Gaudette chirp something. Was that a big thing when you guys were talking over the summer, just hearing? So like having that like on a national display, the Matt Gaudette chirps.
Oh yeah, it was hysterical. I mean, I would text Jackson Morrow and some other guys in that class all the time, and just be like, they don't understand that this is constant. This is not going to stop. Like a couple times in film, I would just like after a goal or something, I would watch Gaudette's body language, and he would not come to celebrate first. He would just turn to like the other team's sideline or the other team's goalie first and foremost. And after a couple seconds with them, then he'd come join us. It was really funny.
That's great. Did he always do the hyena laugh that he got famous for?
That was it. My brother, when we played Georgetown, my brother was the starting goalie for them on my freshman year in the first round of the NCAA playoffs. And my brother says sometimes he still hears his nightmares Gaudette's really high pitched voice.
That's great. That's great. That's like a one in a million type of like personality that you just have on a lacrosse field or just any sport in general. Just like a guy like that who uses I don't want to compare him to Michael Jordan, but like that was the same thing Michael Jordan would do is just talk constantly. And that was just a part of his game, just getting in their guy's head. It's very effective, but you have to be very careful with it at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing that guys I think don't realize too is that he's actually a really great leader. Like internally on our team, like he's vocal. He's taught me so much. He's been really great with a bunch of guys, younger guys like me. And guys don't see that side of him. They just kind of see the menacing side. But he knows when to be soft spoken. He knows when to lead. He knows how to lead. He's been great for us. So it's definitely someone that will leave a void for us.
Definitely. So, taking that moving back a little bit, I just want to start off, getting to know about you a little bit. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of basic questions. So, Matt, where are you originally from?
I'm from Timonium, Maryland, right a little bit north of Baltimore near the Towson area.
When did you first start getting into lacrosse?
My older brothers, both of them played high school lacrosse at McDonough about the time I was born. They're my half brothers, but so I probably grew up watching them. I picked up a stick probably for the first time when I was 3, started playing soft stick when I was 4.
Were you guys, since you have a couple of brothers, big on playing fiddle lacrosse in the backyard when you were kids?
Oh, huge. Yes. There was a bunch of fun games that we would play, but there's a ton of pictures of us running around with my older brothers, big helmets on and, jerseys on, and just carrying around little fiddlesticks.
That's great. And, going back to you having like a twin brother, Chris, who plays goalie, how did he help you, shape the player that you are today?
Oh, I mean, it was a huge advantage having him grow up in my house, especially because we're so competitive with each other. But, my dad would take us to the field probably 4 or 5 times a week throughout all of elementary school if we wanted to go. And then middle school when we really wanted to go. And it was so much fun just to go out there and shoot on him. And it was always a competition. So we always wanted to go out and do it and see who could get the best of each other. And I think he made me a way better shooter and I made him a way better goalie just because we had that consistency. And, eventually he got to learn where I was going to shoot pretty much all the time. So it's gotten a lot harder to score on him, but it's still really fun.
Were there any restrictions when shooting with him, or was it just like all out, I could shoot wherever I want as hard as I want?
Well, when we were in the middle school, a little bit younger high school, there was always a couple big blow-ups where I would either take a step down from like 6 yards and just drill him in the leg or something. And my dad was a really good mediator when it came to that kind of stuff, but there was definitely some restrictions based on where I could not shoot from. But also, that was kind of my own fault. And if he was saving a whole lot of shots in a row, I would take a really bad shot and just kind of hit him in the leg or in like in the arm or something. And it was not fun for him.
Yeah, I mean, goalie, you have to be a psycho to be a goalie. I
Oh,
know, I know.
he's crazy.
Yeah, those guys are just completely different breeds. I can understand being a hockey goalie. You have a bunch of pads and it's like a smaller goal, but like, dude, you have to have like a couple screws loose if you want to be a lacrosse goalie.
I
Those
agree.
guys are nuts, taking shots from 100 miles an hour. Maybe they'll put a cup on if they're feeling a little scared, but in general, those guys are the ones who are leading, but they're also a little crazy. But that's what makes them special.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
So, Chris, did you play any other sports besides lacrosse growing up?
I played when I was young. I played football and basketball. I got out of football a little bit to save my brain. Just I had a concussion and just was like not feeling it anymore. I loved basketball. I stopped playing in high school just because I thought I was a little bit I wasn't strong enough and I wasn't really fast enough. So I wanted to spend the winter getting ready for lacrosse. But I loved playing those sports. And then when I got to high school as well, our defensive coordinator Lewis Scharf at Boys Latin, who's a great guy. He was like a father figure I had at school. Encouraged me to run cross country because he was the coach there as well. So I would run cross country. Running cross country for me was a little bit of a loose term because I was so bad at it and I was so terrible at long distance running. But I would do the sprints really well and then die on the long distance. But it was definitely an experience, and I learned a lot from it about how I could push myself and that kind of thing. So I think those sports are really fun for me.
Do you think, running those cross country races and those sprints, helped you a lot more than if you didn't do it on the lacrosse field?
Oh, I think so. I think obviously I wanted to be the best at everything I did. So because I was so bad at cross country, I would get frustrated and really push myself even harder. And when it came to the sprints, like I was not the fastest guy on the team. I wasn't the best long distance runner. So it gave me a little bit of an edge to work on something.
Yeah, definitely. And you said you went to Boys Latin. So when you're in eighth grade in middle school, is that when you like in Baltimore? Is that when you kind of choose what high school you want to go to?
Yeah. So actually, a lot of guys can you can start um, K through 12. A lot of the schools in Maryland are K through 12, but I ended up going to St. Paul's for middle school, and then was just looking to make a change. My brother and I just didn't think it was the right spot for us, so we started looking around at other high schools in the area. We visited a couple, and just landed on Boys Latin and thought it was the best fit for us. So I think we made that switch in ninth grade.
What stuck out to you the most when you like visited Boys Latin, and like what attracted you to go play your high school lacrosse there?
Right. I think for us, we were looking at size of classes. Boys Latin does a great job. I think it's 12. The average is about 12 person or 12 boys in a class. There's a lot of opportunities for us to push ourselves. We were able to take, I think, four APs. Chris and I were each able to take four APs our senior year. And then there's also a lot of opportunities to get extra help. Like I don't think I could have done the four APs without having time to sit down with my math teacher, Ms. Malali, or a couple other people, a couple other teachers, and really get that extra help that I was looking for. So that stuck out academically. And then obviously from a lacrosse point, Boys Latin has such a great history. I was lucky enough to play for Coach Bob Shriver my freshman year, which was awesome. And then Coach Brian Farrell took over and he was great. So just the history of that was also very attractive when we were looking at schools.
So when you like decided to go play for Boys Latin and you wanted to go play lacrosse there, what did it mean to you that you got to go play for such an historic program in the lacrosse world?
I think it was incredible. We grew up in the Baltimore area watching guys like the Stanwicks and my older brother go through those schools. And, there's so many great players that have gone on to do great things in college and pro game from the Maryland area and especially Boys Latin. So I thought it was great. Felt like there are some big shoes to fill, but the coaches there do such a good job of approaching every team like it's a brand new group of guys because it is. So it was just so fun to put on the Boys Latin jersey, and I'm so lucky that I got to.
Seeing, besides you and your brothers, but a bunch of other Boys Latin alumni play college lacrosse, and either you're playing with them or against them, do you kind of sense that brotherhood with each other?
Oh yeah, I mean my best friends, a lot of my best friends are Boys Latin guys. I scrimmage Syracuse every year. I got a great buddy Baz Layburn on the Syracuse team. Mike Lubriaco was on Villanova when we played them in my first ever collegiate game, and it's really funny to see them on the field because Michael Lubriaco was at my house all the time. I still see him all the time, so it's really fun to see those guys, as I'm sure it is for a lot of high school guys. But I think the boys Latin brotherhood aspect is very strong.
What do you think was one of your favorite memories while playing at Boys Latin?
My senior McDonough had knocked me and my boys Latin out of the playoffs for my freshman, sophomore, and junior year when I was there. Twice in the semifinals and once in the championship. So my senior year, we were able to beat them in the semifinals in front of a big crowd and at Towson. And that was a really cool moment for my guys. For our guys finally getting over the hump, we feel like that was the team that we had to beat, and we ended up losing to Calvert Hall in the championship, an incredible Calvert Hall team. But beating McDonough in that game was a really, really great memory.
How many, there's always like, New York, like the New York State games, there's always like 5 to 10,000 people at those games. How many would show out to these Boys Latin games?
The boys Latin lower turf field is iconic for having great crowds. I couldn't give you a real estimate, but probably pushing for the playoff games, probably pushing 5 to 10,000. I remember we played in the 100th game between St. Paul's and Boys Latin my junior year, and I think there was 12 to 13,000 people at that game. And it was such a cool environment to play in.
Is that like scary for being like a high schooler, going against having 13,000 people watch you as like a 16 or 17-year-old?
I did think it was scary. I thought it was more fun than anything, honestly. Like, I didn't really, boys Latin, I think you're kind of used to having eyes on you and you're used to having some of the spotlight. So I wasn't too worried about it. I thought, I didn't think many of our guys were intimidated by it at all, honestly. I thought we did a very good job. Our coaches did a really good job of preparing us for it as well.
Hearing if you score a goal and just hearing, the crowd, just like you hear the roar from the crowd, did that ever like give you chills and be like, wow, like there's a lot of people watching this game right now?
When we played St. Paul, since I had gone there, I think that it was like more of a rivalry personally for my brother and I. So I don't think that we were as focused on the crowd and more focused on, like the St. Paul's chirps and such like that. So I wasn't, the chills and everything. It's definitely cool to think about, but I think when I get into game situations like that, and even in college, I'm so locked in that I don't really think about anything outside of what's happening on the field.
For sure. But, obviously, like you don't really recognize that during the game, but like looking back on it, do you realize it a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. It's the same with when we played Penn State in the semifinals a year and a half ago or something like that. Looking back and like seeing the fan support we had, which you don't really realize during the game. It's such a cool thing. And, Boys Latin and Yale both have such a great alumni base and so much support around them that it's definitely special to look back and see and hear.
Definitely. And, I want to move back a little bit, just about you being a lacrosse player. So, when you were growing up, who were some guys in the lacrosse world that you looked up to?
All right. So obviously my older brother, Tim, he played at Bucknell. I thought he was a great role model for me as a lacrosse player and taught me a lot about my game. Guys on TV, I love Steele Stanwick's game. I thought he was incredibly smooth and just made everybody around him better. And guys, again, like Rob Pennell, obviously you can't really replicate Pennell's skill and dodging ability, but those are, I think, the three guys that I tried to model my game off the most.
Why did you want to become an attackman? I don't think it was your choice, but why did you like playing like on the offensive side of the field?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I was a midfielder growing up through probably sixth grade, and then I got way less athletic than everybody else. So I think that I decided, my older brother also was playing attack in college. I thought scoring goals was really cool. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm playing attack now because I can't really keep up with the middies anymore. Plus having my brother as a goalie, just shooting on him all the time. I was like, yeah, I think I should stick with this goal scoring stuff.
If you didn't have to play attack, what other position would you want to play?
That's an interesting question. I would probably want to be a goalie, honestly, just so I could compete with my brother in it. I think it's a little crazy, and I'm never want to get in the way of a shot right now, but or I never want to get hit with a shot at least right now. But if I feel like if I had picked it up from a long time ago, I feel like I could do it, and I could at least compete with Chris and make it a little bit fun.
Hmm. I always feel like when I ask this question to offensive guys, I always thought they were going to say like, I just want to be a long pole and just slash like the hell out of an attackman just to let them know how it feels. So that's interesting that you guys like always say like, oh, it's demitted, you're just being a goalie. But do you guys ever just want vengeance like that? Sometimes getting killed, whether it's like on a coma slide or you just getting hacked down the alley.
The only instances I've really thought about that were in practice with Yale, actually. When like we get hacked a little bit extra in practice, then I'm like, all right, I'll roll a ground ball out and see if I can hack them. But during games and playing other guys, I've never really thought about it like that. That's funny though.
Yeah, and when you were growing up, did you play for any club teams or travel teams?
I did. I made my rounds on the club teams around here. I started with loonies as a really young age, at a really young age, I think U11 maybe. And then I worked my way up through crabs. I played for Rock. Um, and then I think I went back to crabs starting freshman year in high school and played crabs my high school career.
So, what was your recruiting process like when you were in high school?
Um, I wasn't the most heavily recruited guy in the world. I took my first ever visit my freshman year to Yale, actually. And it was like, obviously, since their recruiting rules are so strict, it was walking around campus and checking things out. But I think it was on the way to like a Cornell prospect day. But I was pretty undersized. I wasn't really athletic. So I think and I honestly didn't really start developing my skills as well as I could have until my sophomore year. So I think that my process was a lot slower. I remember, I looked at a couple really good schools, but they ended up just passing on me, and ended up with a couple good offers that I was happy with. But when Yale offered, I accepted it on the spot, and that was, it was my first ever school that I had visited. But it was, since day one, the school that I saw myself at the most, and the school I really wanted to go to. So I was lucky enough that also my offensive coordinator in high school is Junior Briaco and Coach Shea are pretty good buddies from their coaching days back at Loyola, or back a little bit. So they're able to stay in touch, and it just so happened that I got the offer that I needed and really wanted the most.
Did you ever think about wanting to play college ball with your brother?
I did, and just the way it worked out, I think that he was better than I was our sophomore year. He was just a little bit more ready for the college game, so he ended up getting a couple of offers that I didn't, and you know, down the road, I was like, maybe we'll end up in the same spot. But I think that he ended up going where he wanted to go, and I got to pick like my dream school. So um, it's something that I thought about, but it was also an individual decision as well, and I chose the school best for me.
Definitely. And coming off your senior year of high school, I take the tough loss to Calvert Hall in the MIAA finals, but you also play in the Under Armour All American game, and then Yale wins the national championship that year. So did you think that was it was pretty cool that like you were heading to a school that you probably didn't know 3 years ago was just going to come off a national championship the year you were coming in?
Oh, it was incredibly cool. I mean, I remember I was at work watching the national championship game. So I worked, I checked people in at a pool or at a club that I live like 2 minutes down the road from. So I was sitting in a little room, like watching the game on my phone, screaming, and it was so cool. It was such a neat experience. And then coming into that, that environment, now they set the stage and they're expecting excellence. So it was really great experience.
Were you a little bit scared, maybe that, you didn't expect that they were gonna have that crazy run?
I don't think I was scared. I was pretty glad that they had set the bar so high, and now we had something to look forward to. Obviously, I chose Yale for a whole lot of reasons, but one was to win a national championship, and I thought that they could do it. I thought that we were going to be able to do it, and before I even got there, they were able to. So, just knowing that we had, I was going to a place that has the power and capability of winning it all, it was really, really exciting.
Definitely. So I got to ask you, when you first got onto the campus at Yale, who was the first? What was the first pizza spot recommended to you?
Oh man, I think Pepe is probably. I actually haven't really tried any of the pizza places. I think we do a pretty good job with our diets at Yale. So I haven't really gotten Pepe's. I haven't gotten any of the popular spots.
Wow. So I thought you guys are like big pizza connoisseurs up there, that you guys know like every single spot and what to do. But
I wish
are
I, I
you?
wish I wish I could say that I was, but honestly, like I think that's more of an alumni thing. Once I graduate, I can start eating as much pizza as I want.
Yeah, it's true. So, going into like, this is like a off-topic type of thing, but how does your meal, like when you got to college, like what was your meal plan like? How did you like have to start eating like a Division I athlete?
Right, that's a great question. I think that my mom actually did a really good job of prepping us teaching me how to eat correctly, but the sheer mass amounts of food that I had to start consuming um, was something that I was not ready for. I think I came in, I think, or I graduated high school at 182 pounds and was expected to get close to 200 by the time we were playing my freshman year. So I started eating a lot and a lot, but obviously you can't just pack on bad calories. So it's just, we were given a pretty good idea of what we had to eat when it came to protein, carbs, that whole thing. So there's a lot of, even right now, I grill up probably 20 chicken breasts at the start of every week, and that's all I'm eating for lunches and breakfast too. Actually, I just eat chicken.
Yeah, how do you spice something up like that? Chicken can be dry at times, and
Oh
just
yeah.
eating it every single day must be, kind of painful. So like, what do you try and do to like make your meals a little bit more exciting than usual?
Well, my mom will help me, and we'll marinate the chicken in some sort of thing before we grill it up. Right now, I'm on a big soy sauce kick, so I'll use like reduced sodium soy sauce on all the chicken. But that's what I've been sticking with for probably the last like 4 weeks.
What's been your go-to meal, besides chicken? What else is like a big go-to meal, after like a long practice and you're like hungry or like a long day and you just got to eat something quickly? What do you look towards to?
When I'm at school, there's a Chinese food restaurant called Main Garden, so I go get sesame chicken and fried rice from there all the time, and I eat that a lot at school.
Do you see yourself, overeating maybe too much? It could be, I know you're supposed to like pack on a lot of weight, but do you think it's ever gotten to a point where like you got to also like watch how much you're eating?
I don't think so. I think we do a really good job tracking calories, tracking how much we eat, and it's really to keep my weight up. I have to eat when I'm hungry and eat every time I'm feeling, and honestly, like what might feel like overeating sometimes probably isn't overeating, and it's just I'm eating until I can no longer eat, and then I'm the right weight. So I think it's not really a problem of overeating ever.
You ever try the olive oil by the Jack Oaken special?
No, I'm not that crazy. That's nuts. I don't understand that. I also don't really understand the concept, but I mean, Jack is an athlete like I have not seen before, so I have no right to question anything about him.
So does he take like a shot every single shot of olive oil just every single morning? How does that work?
I actually don't know. So, which it's weird. Jack and I are really, really close, but I've never seen, and I've seen the olive oil that he drinks, but I've never like really witnessed him do it. I think that he's so meticulous in his ways that he does it in private and likes to keep it out of the spotlight. I mean, it's funny that like all the announcers got a hold of that information. I don't know how they got a hold of it, but it's pretty funny.
That's gross. It's disgusting. That's just I get like apple cider vinegar because it's supposed to like, cleanse your system, but like just olive oil is it's oil. It's oil. It's like you're drinking actual it can't taste good too. I don't know
Oh,
how this.
it's got to be horrible, but he's such a good athlete, and you know, I have no right to question it.
We'll just go by it. We'll just no questions about it anymore.
Yeah,
It's a science that we can't explain.
right.
So, heading to Yale, we were just talking about, you getting onto Yale, you're arriving at the scene, talking about, adjusting there. One of your first games that you ever played at Yale was a scrimmage against Team USA. How was that experience, especially as a first time player for Yale? Getting thrown into the game, playing against the best players in the world that are like 6, 7, 8 years older than you. How was that experience for you?
Oh, it was awesome. It was such a cool experience. Obviously playing against the guys that you've both grown up watching and aspire to be one day on the national team was such a cool experience. And I think that it was also really fun because I was playing in the U.S. lacrosse facility, which is 10 minutes away from my house. So a ton of kids that I knew were there. But like I said earlier, you just kind of focus on the game and forget about your opponent and just do what you do. So um, lucky enough, I was able to actually, I think, start that game, which was really exciting. I think Gaudette was out with like a neck thing. So I was able to just get thrown right in and it was so cool. And I was probably a little bit panicked, but like I said, guys like Jackson Morrill and Brendan Rooney my freshman year did a really, really excellent job of keeping me calm and, just allowing me to do my job.
Did you only play? I forget. Was it like a tournament? So did you only play Team USA, or Was there another team you guys played?
It was just Team USA.
Yeah, that's always a cool thing that's never really brought up and talked about. It's kind of just like, oh, like USA's playing. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's like the middle of fall. That must be actually pretty cool to watch. And I always tune into those games, but I think there should be a little bit more exposure to that because it is the world's best in Team USA playing against defending national champs. I know you guys were down a couple. I think it was. Didn't you have like one of your long pulls playing short stick D midi that game?
I think it was the reverse. I think we had no like one of our first two or three LSMs were out, so we just put a pole in short stick D-Mini's hands, and we're like, good luck.
But like games like that should be, I think, in my opinion, should be, not hyped up, but just be shown more, like said more in lacrosse world. It's kind of blank about how they do it because I don't think it's unofficial. It's like not an unofficial game. You guys are both like playing to win. It's always like a very competitive game. So I think I guess playing in an atmosphere, playing in the atmosphere, you might not realize that like there are a lot of people there, but that's something I'd like to see in the lacrosse world is seeing like games like that be, noticed a little bit more.
I agree completely. Yeah, I think it's such a cool game and such a cool experience. I wish that it was put on a broader scale.
Definitely. So, we were talking about, you said like about academics, why you wanted to choose Yale. So finally getting to Yale, playing lacrosse, scheduling your meal plans and stuff like that. How was the whole academics standpoint when you got to Yale?
It's very challenging academically. I think that I was pretty well prepared from high school, but obviously you get to college and it's a whole new ball game, and that's no matter where you go. Um, Yale, being a liberal arts school, allows you to study a whole bunch of things that are interesting. I've been able to take some really cool classes that have had nothing to do with. I'm an economics major that have nothing to do with economics, but also the economics classes are very tough, and it's a lot of late nights and hard studying, but it's all worth it. Obviously, having an education at Yale is something that not a lot of people can do, and I'm very, very fortunate that I'm able to.
How have you done balancing your academic life and also being a Division 1 athlete?
I like to think I've done pretty well. I think that I was pretty well prepared coming in, and I didn't have the best study habits and techniques, but that was not because I didn't understand them. It's just because I chose not to use them. So I kind of had to figure out how to start studying very well pretty quickly, but I think I was able to figure it out. And the coaches are also very understanding. If you have an exam, that comes first. If you have school stuff, that comes first. So they do a great job with that. But as a lacrosse player, as a college lacrosse player, I think that it's really important that to find that balance. And I was lucky enough to have mentors like my freshman year, guys like John Danigelis and then Jackson Morrill as well, who were able to really help me.
Do you keep yourself organized? Keep a planner and stuff like that.
I always start the year with a planner, and by the time probably halfway through the semester, I am no longer using a planner. Something that we joked a lot about at home was I always asked Chris what the homework was in every class, and when I got to college, I didn't have him to ask what the homework was anymore, so we had no idea how I was going to be able to figure it out. But I've done a pretty good job actually staying on top of it.
Do you like that challenge almost, of, playing Division I sports and also being at a rigorous school?
Oh, absolutely. I think it prepares you for the real world like nothing else. I think that, um, you know, having an education like I'm getting, and then having to meet the expectations of being a Yale lacrosse player has really helped me grow a lot as a person and learn about myself as well.
Definitely. So moving forward a little bit in your freshman year, finally getting to be in full practices during during the real season of lacrosse. What was it like, heading onto a field with the guys that just won the national championship the year before that?
It was exciting, but I also think that we did a great job of kind of washing that year and starting our own year. It's a new group of guys, um, new leadership, new first years. So we kind of approached it just like clean slate. We're a new team, figure it out for ourselves. And um, well, there might have been a little bit of expectations that we would do well. Really, it was just us trying to find our own identity.
What's the go-to song after a practice or a game that's thrown on in the locker room?
It depends who's on aux. Jack Owen can grab the aux sometimes, and he likes like heavy metal, hard metal music. Um, it depends. That's a great question. Usually, it's just sort of some sort of EDM song, either Avicii or something like that.
I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation right now. Yale comes
Okay.
off a overtime winner in a playoff game or just a crazy Ivy League tournament game.
Yeah.
What's your go-to song?
Personally, oh man, that's a great question too. Um, Gosh, there's so much excitement going on that sometimes it's hard to like think about music. But I would probably, when we were in the playoffs, or the Final Four, we got to choose a song. It was "Split" by Tiesto, and that song just gets me hyped like no other now because I just think about like all the connotations behind scoring a goal, but they're like in that time and like when we would do something well, like that song would come on. So "Split" by Tiesto is kind of my go-to right now.
That's a great song. Always hyping people up. So, also, being a freshman at Yale, you're getting a lot of time, but who are some guys that, that were upperclassmen that were helping you either on or off the field?
Right. There's so many guys I could mention. You know, the whole senior class my freshman year, I think were great leaders. On the attack, Brendan Rooney, and then throughout the whole offense, we were led by, you know, Dan Angelis, Sessa, and Jack Ty were the first midfield line. But, a lot of things also, guys that you don't see off the field, like Thomas Duran, who was recovering from an injury, was an awesome leader for me on the attack, taught me a lot. A whole bunch of guys like that. And then also Jackson Morrill, I think, and Matt Gaudette were great for me, kind of took me under their wing. So those are, I would say, the first names that pop in mind, but I think I could probably name every guy in the senior and junior classes and even the sophomore class that really helped me, become a Yale lacrosse player.
So, going off of that, who, like, if you had to choose, like, your ideal West Jenny trio of guys, who would it be for you?
West Jenny, the West Jenny drill or like?
Yeah, the West Jenny drill. The West Jenny
Oh,
drill.
that's a great question. I think it would. I don't know. I love playing with Gaudette and Jackson, so it'll probably be those guys. So might throw a lefty in there, um, because we are all righties. But I think I don't know. I don't know. That's a great question. I'd probably just go with Morrill and Gaudette at the moment.
Who who do you think like I not idolize, but who do you think you emulated your game after most throughout any of the guys in the senior class or junior class? Who do you think you kind of, play most similarly to?
That's a very good question. I think that I was able to take kind of parts of both Gaudette and Jackson Morrill's game. I think that they both really helped me. Jackson, I'm not as obviously I'm not as great of a quarterback as him, and I'm not as great as a finisher as Matt, but I think that they were able to kind of teach me part of their game, and I was able to kind of throw aspects of their game together with my own kind of like slashing style.
What's your go-to move? I know we're going a little bit slow, but what do you think is one of your go-to moves in like a game situation, like a that you always want to try and use?
Well, my brother gives me crap about this all the time, but usually it's just run as hard as I can to my right hand, like top side. I think that I think that moves are also based on matchups and things like that. But late game situations, I think it's just like kind of pull your guy out to the sideline, make a quick move, and try and either get under or get over. I love those wing dodges, so I'd say just any move over there, any move from that right side wing.
So fast forward a little bit into your freshman year, coming to playoff time. First round matchup. You're playing your brother. What was that experience like?
Oh, it's so cool. I remember we had lost to Penn in the Ivy League championship, and I had taken a really bad shot in the fourth quarter and was very down. And then, but we as a team were watching the selection show, and when I saw Yale Georgetown, I kind of lit up again, and we were texting each other right off the bat. But when it came down to the actual game time, it was so fun to be on the field with him and to be competing against him. It was an experience like no other, and you can't really compare it or put it into words because of how like cool and special it was. But we were up so fast so early. I think it was like 8 or 9 nothing or one or something like that in the first quarter, and I started I started hoping that he just started doing well. I was like, just make like the next 12 saves. It's okay. Like I want to win, obviously, but I want him to get a couple of saves in there as well. But it was pretty funny. And it was experience like no other, obviously.
Did you get any chirps in on him while he was in
Did
goal?
after the first couple of goals, and then I was like, probably should stop chirping him after like.
Yeah, it was looking like a bloodbath after the first quarter. It
Yeah, I was
was
like, all right, I'm kind of done chirping him now. But in the fourth quarter, I started chirping him a little bit more when I realized the game was over and it was going to be a little bit closer. I was like, all right, I can let him have a couple.
for sure. So fast forward a little bit more to championship weekend. You got a big rematch against Penn State. They're coming off this hot, 15-game win streak. Last time they lost was to you guys. Second game of the season. You have an incredible game. I think it was like 8 goals you had. What kind of sparked you having, such a powerful game for Yale?
Right. Well, I think the great part about the Yale offense is that there are situations where guys can step up and have big games, but it doesn't mean that they're just taking over. Like I was the beneficiary of a lot of really good team offense, and I just ended up being on the finishing end of a lot of goals that could have been anyone's goal. So I think that it was really cool to like have that opportunity and have that a game like that, but we put up 21 goals and it was an incredible display of offense, So I think that the coolest part was just that we were able to go into such a big game against such a great team and put on such a great display of offense. And I just got lucky.
Definitely. That national championship game you guys played a couple of days later. Unfortunately, you guys lost that game. It was a tough battled game. What do you think were some things you took away from that game personally?
I think that a couple of takeaways were just that, well, first of all, Virginia was an excellent team. Their defense was suffocating. They had a great game plan, but I think that, there's just a couple of things that I wish I had done differently. But, I think the biggest takeaway that I had was just that, after my first year of college lacrosse, I was able to make it that far, and that's something really cool. And it gave me a little bit more experience, and hopefully it'll lead to more success, and we'll be able to get back and avenge it. But they're a great team. I think I wish I was a little bit. I played I played a little bit nervous in the beginning of the game, as a freshman in the national championship might. But I wish I didn't. But hopefully that I'll get back and have the opportunity to approach it like like an upperclassman.
For sure. So heading into your 2020 season, what were some big goals or, things that you wanted to work on that, or, tried to work on over the off season that, needed some work in your freshman year?
Right. Well, obviously a big thing was I was playing the left side as a right-handed attackman, so I still do obviously need to get my left hand up to a left-handed attackman's capabilities. But really just continuing to build the chemistry with Jackson, Matt Gaudet was important to me as well, and just making sure that I think by the time the season ended, we were kind of always knew where each other was going to be. So it was unfortunate timing, but building chemistry and then working on that offhand and making sure I was always in the right spot.
Before the season got shut down, what do you think was your favorite memory?
We took a trip to California to play Michigan out there, and that was so cool. Being out there with those guys, and it gave us an opportunity to get a lot closer because we were in a hotel rooms together all the time. But also, just that whole experience was so neat, and playing out there and beautiful weather in front of a big crowd of people that hadn't been exposed like I had to the game was really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure. After the season got shut down and, the seniors weren't allowed to stay, did you realize that you were going to need to be a leader on the Yale team?
I think that I obviously knew that Jackson and Matt were leaving on the attack, and I would be the only returning starting attackman. So, in that role, I kind of expected that I would take on a bigger position, and I think that Jackson and Matt did a good job of preparing me for, to maybe eventually become a leader on the offense. So I think I kind of knew it. I was obviously hoping that I wouldn't have to, and Jackson and Matt could come back, and guys like Lucas Kotler could come back and lead, but they couldn't. So, I think that, I'm ready to do it. I'm hoping that it goes well.
Yeah. So how did you, keep a good mindset during the quarantine stage, from March to now? How did you train? How did you keep like a healthy mind during all this craziness?
That's a great question. I think that having other guys at Yale hold me accountable, and also me holding them accountable is great for us. And I think that, you know, we are driven as individuals, but also as a team. So like individually, I think I knew that I wanted to be bigger, faster, stronger, and more talented with my stick when I got back to school. And the only way that I was going to do that was by, doing something every day and making sure that I was in the best athletic shape of my life as well. So I think that I was kind of driven individually, but Yale does such a good job of, holding each other accountable and making sure that everyone's on top of everything all the time, that it was pretty easy, honestly, to make sure that I was on top of my stuff.
And what are you looking forward to most in your 2021 season?
Oh, I can't wait to put on a practice jersey again. I need to get out on the field with those guys. Hearing the coaches, hearing chirps, hearing talk, everything like that, man, it's so exciting. I can't wait to put on a practice jersey and get out there with the guys.
Just the smell of lacrosse in the air is something.
Like just literally lacing up the cleats in the locker room is something I cannot wait to do.
I think it was a first for everyone, but not playing lacrosse in the months of March, April, May, and June was, probably for you like the first time, 18 years that you didn't play
Yes.
lacrosse.
Yes, that's correct.
That's like a very
nuts. It
long
was
time.
nuts. It was very boring and and kind of crazy, but I was able to stay occupied. And I was able to keep a stick in my hands, which is great. And it just kind of makes me miss the sport even more.
Besides lacrosse and training, training during the during quarantine? What else did you do that you enjoyed, that maybe a hobby or something that you took up?
My dad, I have an internship right now at Northwestern Mutual, so that's taken up a good amount of time, and I really enjoy that and the people I work with. But my dad has encouraged me to get a little bit more into golf, take me to the driving range. I feel like a lot of guys have done that. It's been a pretty popular thing, but it's been a lot of fun, and my dad and I have really enjoyed spending time out there on the golf course.
You any good?
Oh no, I'm terrible. I've only put like I picked it up at the start of probably the summer, and went to the driving range probably 5 or 6 times, and then played like 6 or 7 rounds of or 6 or 7 outings of 18 holes, and I've gotten under 100 once, which I was pretty proud of, but I'm pretty terrible. I'm pretty awful. Yeah.
Golf's the hardest sport. I'm just gonna say golf is the
It's
hardest
so
sport.
hard. It doesn't make sense. It's like such an easy concept. You just hit it and it goes where you want, but it never does. It's a crazy thing.
It's insane. It's also like 90% mental.
Oh yeah, it's
It's
crazy.
it's a whole different realm. So my last question for you today, Matt, is the low to high question. So to incorporate the name of the podcast, low to high, I'm gonna ask you a two-part question. So the first part of it is, what have been some of your lows while playing lacrosse? It could be a bad game you lost, an embarrassing moment on the field. What do you think it would be for you?
I think um, I was really hoping to get out of boys Latin with the championship, and my senior year I kind of put up a goose egg when it came to playoff time. So I think that was pretty rough on me mentally, yeah, or not mentally, but just that was like kind of low in my game.
And to go right off of that, what have been some of your highs?
Um, yeah, I think making it to championship weekend my first year in college lacrosse was something that I did not expect, but was hopeful for. And I think that, just that whole experience was so, so cool. But honestly, just anytime I think putting on a Yale jersey, like, is something that, I always dreamed of. And it's been such an honor and blessing that I've been able to do it. And I can't wait to get back and do it more. And, hopefully, hopefully this year.
For sure. Matt Brandau, thank you so much for coming on the Low to High podcast. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate your time. Looking forward to watching you play this upcoming 2021 season.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. Have a good day, Matt.